Hello book lovers and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins and today I'm talking to author J.T. Fisher. Julie is the author of 3 novels about 21st century women with whom you will resonate, who face challenges and overcome them. Julie began a writing career through blogging, writing vignettes about parenting, being a wife, daughter and employee, and then for various reasons which we'll discuss, she turned from blogging to writing fiction. Hi Judy, welcome and thank you for coming on Book Talk Radio Club.
Claire, very happy to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Judy, you were busy blogging about your everyday life, being a wife, parent, daughter, an employee and an empty nester. How and why did your blogging evolve into writing fiction?
Well, a good friend of mine told me that my writing was great, terrific. She enjoyed reading my blogs, but I was getting a little bit too transparent in what I was writing. A lot of the stuff was very personal, and, just in case I happen to decide to run for president, it may not be a good thing to have some of that stuff out there on the internet. So she suggested, keep on writing, but just keep it to yourself. And so I did that, and I started to piece things together. And while I was doing it, I thought to myself, I could still write for the public if I just plug these things in and still make a novel of it. And that's what I did. And I enjoyed the process. I loved it, in fact. Everything except the editing part. And I've been doing it ever since.
So let's talk about your latest novel, Voices from the Ledge, which was published December 2018. Would you like to give Book Talk Radio Club's listeners a brief synopsis of the story?
I'd be happy to. My main character, Julie, suffered from empty nest syndrome. She'd been forced into early retirement while her husband had hit the pinnacle of his career. She was lost. And what she didn't know was that her feelings of loneliness, depression, and desperation were really quite normal for someone in her stage of life. Julie had a plan. She had worked out a complete plan where she was going to go down to a fancy hotel in Miami and end her misery. The execution of her plan, however, was interrupted because she met up with 4 women who were there at the hotel on a getaway weekend, and these 4 women who had grown up together and done everything together their whole lives ran into Julie and asked her to become a part of their group, pretty much. And this is what got in the way of her following through on her plan as it was in place. So, and if I say too much more, you're not going to want to read the book. So I'll stop there.
Don't give away the whole thing.
No, heavens no.
In light of what we were talking about earlier with your blogging, the main character Julie's experience of empty nest syndrome is based on your experiences then?
Most definitely. In fact, that's pretty much what I write and why I write. That's why I actually continued doing this. My whole point of writing was not so much to be on the New York Times bestseller list. It was to send out messages to women or even men that some of these things that we go through in life, these issues that we carry with us and often repress, have a big effect on us. We're all a melting pot of our own life experiences.
Sure.
And unless we come to terms with them, it's kind of hard to go on in a normal way. Kind of like things that are going on in the world today, like the Me Too movement and all those other things, are coming to terms with life. And that's kind of what my genre has become.
Right. Well, empty nest syndrome is strange, isn't it? I mean, it's most definitely a feeling of not mattering that much anymore. We spend so much time being someone's mother that when the children leave to go to university or college, most of a woman's identity is gone and we're left with a shell. It's hard.
Yes, I totally identified as a mom. I used to tell my kids that I never really even wanted to be anything other than a mom. I didn't have designs on being a Supreme Court justice or a cardiac surgeon. All I ever wanted to do was to be a mom and then thereafter a grandmom. And by the way, if all goes well, I should be a grandmom in about a month, as my daughter is expecting.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
That's not to say, though, that I didn't enjoy my work along the way. I did not-for-profit work in the mostly with elderly people, right, and working on behalf of people that were a little less fortunate than myself. So it was terrific.
They say all books of fiction have at least one pivotal point where the reader can't put the book down. I guess in this case the reader will be a woman who begins associating with Julie's story in Voices from the Ledge. What is the point, that this pivotal point, you think, where someone's going to say, oh my goodness, this is me?
Well, that's, in the case of this particular book, that's an interesting question. And I think my answer is going to be kind of a surprising answer. The main character in this book there's a lot to chew on with her, but the four women that she meets also have a story to tell. So there's actually 5 women in this book that face a major challenge in their lives. And the 4 women, the 4 getaway girls, that's what I've gotten to call them, the getaway girls, they all are basically teaching Julie a little bit of a lesson in life. That you face these hardships in life and you get through them and you go on.
Yeah.
Because we really don't have much of a choice other than the choice she thinks she's making.
Now let's go on to Okay, So I Lied, a Paradox, that you published in June 2017. This is the story of a young woman's journey of deception as she attempts to achieve her dreams of becoming a rock star. Tell me about Jill Kelly, the main character of the book.
I have to tell you, this book was so much fun to write. Jill Kelly is a very bright young lady. Very, very bright, intelligent, intellectually, and also, she's got a lot of other qualities as well. And she comes from a family, a long history of medical doctors, and her grandfather and her father before her, they were all cutting-edge cardiologists, and it was always expected that she would follow in their footsteps, but she had other designs. Some of her other character qualities were she was very clever and conniving. So she found a way, and this one, she found a way to go to college, and everybody thought she was studying pre-med, but she wasn't. So this was the first of a long line of lies that she told. And, there's that old maxim, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Mm-hmm. This character, Jill, found that lying is not always the best way, because it did lead her down some treacherous paths along the way. And again, with this title, I really don't want to say too much more.
Okay.
Because
fair enough. Did you base Jill's character on someone you know, or is she an amalgam of people?
An amalgam. Well, let me see. Jill is actually, again, kind of me. Except that I didn't have the guts to do what she did. I wanted to study theater, and being the 4th of 4 children, I think my dad and mom had gotten to the point where, I couldn't study theater because that wasn't going to provide for me a definite way to make my way in the world. Mm-hmm. They wanted something a little more secure, something I could fall back on for sure. And so I minored in theater, and I majored in journalism. Oh. So it was sort of me. But Jill was also my daughter-in-law. And my daughter-in-law was the medical student who switched to study in art. But she didn't lie about it. She did it up above board. She was strong enough to follow her bliss. Jill is also my niece. Because my niece went into theater, and look for her in the future because she's really very talented. She's my hero. I live vicariously through her. But you know what? Forget all that. The short answer is, you know what? Jill is an amalgam of a lot of people.
You've received some great reviews for Okay, So I Lied, including good character development and a fluid storyline. And I enjoyed the multiple conflicts that heroine overcame and was truly touched by the ending. What is the most important to you, Judy? The first review or the first sale for a new book, and why?
Well, my husband would say, the first sale. He wants me to sell. Get out there and sell those books. Truthfully, the reviews are very important to me because that's how I grow as a writer. Mm. I would love to get more reviews, mainly because the more input I get, the more I learn. By the way, a 5-star review is much appreciated. Yeah, that's the reviews are definitely more important. I would love to sell more books. The main reason I write is because I like to send out these positive messages about some of these things that we as well, I say we. I'm a middle-aged woman who has been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and I'm still here. Uh-huh. You know, I've made it through an awful lot of stuff, and I write about the stuff, and I write about the fact that I made it through, and that I'm still enjoying life.
Absolutely. And lastly, let's talk about your first published novel, A Life Well-Lived. This fascinates me. What if you had the chance to live your entire life with the wisdom of age? Now, I love this. Would you like to tell Book Talk Radio Club's listeners about the story?
Well, this is actually a thinly veiled autobiography because, as I said before, when I started writing, I was writing about my own personal things in a blog, and as I started to get a little too transparent, so the vignettes in this story, the storyline is totally fictional.
Right.
A little bit of it's true. I mean, I did honeymoon in San Francisco, but all the vignettes that are plugged into this story are true. The college graduate Dana had no idea what to do next. She was so overcome with fear and self-doubt, which is exactly where I was when I graduated from college, that she chose the path of least resistance and did what everyone expected her to do. She got married and, made babies and did all the things, she didn't follow, I guess she just didn't follow her bliss, At any rate, on her honeymoon, now this is the fictional part, on her honeymoon she had an accident and she ends up in a coma. And strange things happen from there on. And again, if I give too much away, I will tell you, the good news is she does come out of the coma. I'm fine. Nothing happened to me on my honeymoon.
The reason why the idea fascinates me is because I ask myself the question, would we actually be any wiser if we didn't make the mistakes we normally make when we're younger? I mean, wouldn't it make life so two-dimensional rather than three-dimensional? I just love books that make me think and ponder.
Well, I don't think that having wisdom of age makes you two-dimensional. My father used to warn me not to be so impulsive. And I remember vividly that when he did that is when I jumped up on the railing on our front porch when I was a kid. And his warning was such that, you could have fallen off the other side and hurt yourself. So the wisdom that we have in, then he said to me, it's better to be spontaneous rather than impulsive. Mm. And those words, they're very closely related. You may call it semantics. But if you have the choice, if you know that what you're doing today is going to have you end up sick or dead or hurt or whatever, that's not so much, as you put it, two-dimensional. That's just safety. This is a great big world we have to grow into and to gain from and learn from. I once spent some time with a woman who was 100 years old. Remember, I mentioned to you that I spent some time with the elderly. And she told me something once, and I don't know if it was a quote from a book author or a book. She said, when we stop growing, we cease living authentically. So she was still taking classes at a college at the age of 100 years old. So there's so much to gain, and if you can have a life where you don't make serious mistakes, when we're impetuous and young and not so much spontaneous, but impulsive in our early 20s, say, then we live a safer life, but there's still it's not two-dimensional, it's three-dimensional. It can even be, some people say, four-dimensional.
Too soon, old, too late, smart. Isn't that what your father used to say to you? And he also used to say, there's nothing new under the sun. I guess his sayings must have really had an impact on you, as you felt it was time to share some of your wisdom. What's the most important lesson you've learned and will pass on to other people?
I've learned one specific lesson that I live by every single day. And my son is a mental health professional, a mental health counselor, and he took this quote that I developed and he printed it and he has it hanging in his office. And that is, never do anything to sacrifice the integrity of your own potential.
Absolutely. Yep, I like that. So what other books are you working on, and when will they be published?
Well, right now I'm really challenging myself. One of the things that I do is when I write from the main character's inner voice. What they're thinking is a way to advance the storyline.
Right.
So when you read my books, a lot of it is written in italics, and that tells the reader that's what the character is actually thinking.
Right.
Not necessarily saying. You have narrative and you have dialogue, and you have, in my books, thought.
Right.
But I'm writing this book from the vantage point of the male character, which is going to be difficult because, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. I don't remember that book, how it is, but this time I'm writing a murder mystery, which is also a little out of my comfort zone. And the topic that it's on is unrequited love, because to this day, and this is something that happened 45 years ago. Am I really that old? 45 years ago, I broke somebody's heart, and I'm using that as the basis of my storyline. And it's gonna be a tough time, maybe revisiting some of those feelings. But the working title is, and I'm not sure people are going to get this because I don't know if cars even do this anymore, but it's called Backfired. That's a working title.
Right.
And I don't know that cars backfire anymore, so I don't know.
I don't think they do. Finally, what message are you trying to get across in your novels, Judy?
The main message is that we're not alone on this earth. That most of what anybody has gone through, somebody else has experienced too.
Yes.
And if you don't have to repress all the feelings and the pain and the upset. So when you read a book, one of my characters, even though it's written in a light, approachable fiction, there's maybe somebody somewhere will reach out and identify with one of the characters and say, hey, that's me.
Yeah, I'm not alone.
She can, that's me too. I can get through this,
Exactly.
I hope that my reading and my writing and the use of inner speak, because it's very natural for me to write that way, I hope that readers can really identify with that and have it feel real enough that they know they're not alone.
Finally, where can people purchase your books?
Well, right now they're available on Amazon, but I have a website that if you go to the Read Me part of my website, there's a listing of where they're available, where they're all available everywhere. And there's one little thing that I've added to it on my website is that I've added a little gift item for each book, a little bracelet that's in theme with the book for the book that I've just released for Voices from the Ledge. I have a book that, a bracelet that says Celebrate Life. And for Okay, So I Lied, I have a bracelet that says Follow Your Bliss. And for my first book, A Life Well Lived, is a bracelet with a little owl on it that says Wisdom.
That's
so
wonderful. I love
they
that
can purchase right through my website as well.
I love that idea. Well, look, thank you, Judy. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club when you publish your next book. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Thank you very much, Judy.
Thanks for having me, Claire.
Okay.